Welcome to Sitting on Holly's Sofa. And I think this is fast. This is Susan came up with these.
So the first one that I thought we'd do is, it's going to be 2020, and probably by the time we put this one out, it's already 2020. But those years that end in zeros are kind of really nice pivot points and touch points. And so I thought, I don't know that I want to look at 20 years,
right?
Although I am quite shocked how 20 years has gone by. But let's start by looking at 10 years back behind us and 10 years going forward. Like where do you want to be in 10 years from now?
Well, in 10 years from now, I kind of want to be out at the cottage in the middle of the woods.
Okay.
Still playing with ceramics, still writing, probably not as much.
Mm-hmm.
I would anticipate that that's going to
slow a little.
Just a bit. There's so many other things I want to do in life that even now it's a big juggling act, but it always has been. And pretty much 10 years ago, it was the same sort of thing for me. My life sort of revolves around my family, and I love learning new things. And I feel that looking 10 years back and 10 years forward, I feel that there's sort of a symmetry with that. I feel that that's not going to change.
It's going to be very similar.
Yeah, I do. So.
Okay. Well, for me, these last 10 years have been kind of bumpy and rough. We're not quite to 10 years from the time that I separated from my now ex-husband and whatnot. So all of that was very bumpy. And of course, that has not lent itself to my writing. First of all, there is the whole idea of a 40-hour a week, more than 40-hour a week day job to keep the roof over my head and everything. So looking back these last 10 years, well, number one, I do give myself a lot of credit for coming out on my feet. And, I had been in a hole of debt and everything else, and I have transformed that into a house of my own and all that good stuff. So while
not in a condescending way, I frequently tell her how proud I am of her as a friend way.
Thank you.
And I feel there's a difference between those. So I am.
Yeah. So. Well, and that's what I have to give myself credit for. There may not have been a lot of new books that I wrote, but I did a lot of stuff. Right. So my hope is then in the next 10 years, though, that I get back to writing new books and everything else. I'm still going to need a day job unless I can start really, really writing.
So what you're saying is buy our books.
But that would be great. but what I'm saying is, and at some point, the biggest thing for me right now, and so is always healthcare. You worry about that, having health insurance. But there have been, who knows we don't know what 10 years from now is going to bring with that either.
Right.
Hopefully drastic changes no matter what. But so that's kind of where I am. And 10 years from now, and it's interesting because for me, I am a few days before one of those milestone birthdays, which is it's a 5-year increment birthday. And those are places where I like to stop and pause. And it was 20 years ago when I said, I want to be a writer.
That is.
And I made that happen. So it's kind of almost like a rededication that I need to do is say, okay, do you want to be a writer? Or
I think those bits of self-reflection are good. And we've talked about them on the crutches. And so I've slowed down a bit. And I know that many of you have noticed that I do go sort of and just. So for me, having these moments to slow down and really think, it's nice. And it's a nice way to reflect on the fact that I am totally happy with my life. I have a family I adore, a husband I adore, who's picking up the slack at home for me, and it's just been marvelous. I can't say enough. I have really good friends who understand that I'm a bit of a hermit and just accept me as such.
We haven't seen each other in person since October, since we did the last filming when we were at the conference. It's, again.
But if I called Susan, if I said, hey, I broke my leg, could you go do this for me? I know it's a pain in your butt. Those are the kinds of friends. I have another friend when we lost my mother-in-law who is like that. I called her. She lived in Virginia but was coming from Alaska. So got off a plane from Alaska to Virginia, got in her car, and drove from Virginia to Erie, Pennsylvania, because she knew how close I was to my mother-in-law and wanted to be there for the family. I've been super fortunate to have so many friends, and even you guys online, who understand where I'm at and just accept me as my weirdly happy about absurd things sort of person. I know that. And I think sometimes taking a break, and 2020 seems like a great place.
Wait, we said we weren't going to say that word.
Don't say that word. Swiss cheese leg and all. So taking a moment.
There you go.
To really reflect on that and say, is there something I'm missing? Is there something I want? Or am I just totally
content?
I am. I want to get out to my studio this summer, but that's neither here nor there. Really and truly, I feel like I'm really fortunate with where I'm at. And I think you're in such a good place now that if you find your way back to writing, you'll be good. So.
And there we go. And that's what we hope. So, you know, again, for you, take time to look back on the last 10 years and then the next 10 years. Well, where do you hope to be? What do you hope to accomplish in those years?
There you are. Have a good one.
We'll see you next time.